It was the night of my appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and as I waited for my turn on the couch, I was feeling confident. I'd invested over $350,000 of my show's budget into the anecdote I'd be telling tonight, and that meant this had to work. But shortly after the show began, something happened that I never saw coming.
Please say hello to Kirsten Dunst.
The first guest of the night was Hollywood starlet Kirsten Dunst, and as she began telling her story, I couldn't believe my ears. It started with talk of an upcoming wedding.
You got engaged since the last time I saw you.
I did last December.
And then quickly transitioned into a story about a luggage mix-up at an airport.
She worked for Lufthansa. If someone was rude to her in the morning, she did it twice, I think.
What'd she do?
She would send their bag to a different country.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and just when I thought it couldn't get worse.
You know, you have movie pot, which is basically
Do you really?
fake. You know, it's like whatever they roll. Tobacco,
Oregano or whatever.
Yeah.
She ended with a twist about confusing a baggie of fake drugs for real drugs.
He came back, he's like, oh, you smoked a full blunt on one of the takes. I've never been that stoned in my entire life.
I considered just leaving right then. How could I possibly follow a story that was so similar to mine? But before I knew it, the sound guy intercepted me, and all of a sudden, I was being ushered to the stage. I had no clue what would happen once I was out there, but at this point, there was no turning back.
Season 4 of Nathan For You premieres September 28th on Comedy Central. Please welcome Nathan Fielder. You got a lot of energy, Nathan. You remind me of a young George Lopez. Do you get that regularly?
I love rock and roll. Couldn't help but jam a little bit with you guys.
I was still in a state of shock as I stumbled through the initial banter and began my story.
So, okay, I was going to a wedding, like an out-of-town wedding.
Okay.
You've been to weddings before?
I was at
right?
one once, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I could sense right away the audience wasn't in the mood for another wedding tale. But I knew I did have one thing that Kirsten Dunst didn't, a funny visual.
And I put on the suit, but the only thing is it's like way too big for me.
Okay.
Actually, I sent your producers the photo.
Oh, you have a photo? Oh,
That's
how about
me
that?
in the hotel room. I took that.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, that is too big.
Yeah.
It's way too big.
I look like a Dick Tracy villain or something.
Yeah.
The explosion of laughter I got gave me new confidence. And as I began describing my drug mix-up, I was reminded that maybe the similarities in our stories didn't matter.
In the suit, there's like a small Ziploc baggie with like a powdery substance in it.
Mm-hmm.
Every great talk show anecdote follows the same formula. It didn't matter how many times the audience had heard it. They wanted to hear it again.
And I see the sirens, and a cop pulls me over. Thank God you're not the fashion police, or I'd be in big trouble right now. I had left the baggie on the seat beside me.
Plot point after plot point, I was killing.
Oh, I don't know, it's not mine.
But as my story crossed the 9-minute mark, I could tell they were expecting a big payoff. And if I could stick the landing, this could go down as the best talk show anecdote of all time.
And I give the phone to the cop. And the cop takes it and hesitates and puts it to his ear, and he's like, "What's in the baggie?" And then there's this long silence while the cop is just listening. And then he looks at the baggie again and then hands back the baggie to me with my phone and says, "Okay, you're good." And so I say to him, I'm like, "What did he say was in the baggie?" And he said, "It's his mother's ashes."
So you must have been...
I mean, seriously, I've never been so relieved to find out I was holding human remains.
That night, I was incredible, and I could rest easy knowing that it all really happened.
Nathan Fielder, everybody. We're right back.